Hello. This is issues of the day. Mm, I'm going to talk about cyber capacity of African countries. We have uh, in Africa we have some countries, about seven, which are developed a very good cyber capacity. And when you develop a good cyber capacity, then you become a target for state and non-state actors who would like to probe and find vulnerabilities in your system, by which they could penetrate and do damage or exfiltrate data and information. So now we have issue in Africa. We have the Renaissance Dam, which is being built in Ethiopia. Now, why is this dam of particular interest? Why am I talking about this Renaissance Dam? The Renaissance Dam happens to be a project. It's the largest hydroelectric project in Ethiopia. It's a geopolitical um, uh, paradigm because two other countries are involved, Sudan and Egypt, and it it bestrides the Blue Nile. The Nile flows through Egypt, and the Nile is very strategic to both Egypt, Sudan, but mostly Egypt relies a lot and cannot do without the Nile for irrigation. For the whole source of water is from the Nile. Now, Ethiopia has a very ambitious hydro power project, which has been ongoing, but issues have come to light in regard to the Egyptian authorities not being happy with the manner in which Ethiopia plans to exploit this 4.6 billion hydroelectric dam. There is currently an uh, and Egypt's point of uh, well, concern is that the levels of the Nile within these dams is operationalized. The levels need to be not exceeding a certain level, which would be detrimental to their own side, whereby if it reaches a certain level, they would be deprived of some water, which they need for their livelihood. So to ensure this this does not happen, they wanted a legally binding commitment and a guarantee from Ethiopia that this state of affairs should not be an issue when the dam is operationalized. But Ethiopia, to the consternation of Egypt and Sudan, has proceeded speedily to operationalize the dam because they feel they have lost enough time and it's not on their side. They want it up and running as soon as possible. So the Egyptians and Ethiopians have not yet formalized this, put to rest Egypt's fears. So there was an incident on the 19th and 20th June of 2020. Um, Ethiopian uh, authorities had the official government websites and were defaced, and there was a group calling itself Cyber Horus, which claimed responsibility. And the objective was to related to the water filling of the Grand Dam. They left a message that if the river level drops, let all the Pharaoh soldiers um, hurry and return only after the liberation of the Nile, restricting its flow, to prepare the people for the wrath of the pharaohs. The text was displayed on numerous Ethiopian backed government websites under an image of a skeleton pharaoh. So, um, while there is currently no known link between the Egyptian hacking group Cyber Horus and the Egyptian government, using cyber means to influence and put pressure on Ethiopia by the Egyptian government cannot be ruled out, especially if negotiations continue to fail, as they have so far not really reached a conclusive and decisive agreement. Mm, it should also be noted that the cyber warfare strategy of taking down government services and websites has been used before, and it was in fact one of the very first cyber warfare attacks in history. The first was when Russia attacked Estonia in 2007, dismantling banking services, news, and government services. If there's anything to be learned from recent diplomatic tussles and global security issues, in which the US, China, Russia, Israel, and Iran are each engaged in, it is that states are increasingly using cyber capabilities in place of kinetic military force. When Iran tried to had a had their nuclear enrichment process, which was ongoing at the Natanz facility in Iran, there was a, a, a virus called the Stuxnet, which was implanted through thumb drive, and it managed to infiltrate the Iranian servers and systems. It slowed down and damaged their nuclear enrichment program for some good time before they were able to get to grips with what had happened. So this was a US inspired plot, which was successful. It was the first use of weaponization of using a cyber facility to cripple a nation state program. That was the Stuxnet, as it came to be called. And so from then on, Iran also has adapted and improved its cyber warfare capabilities, and it is in the game as well. This is a game everyone is in, not only Russia, Iran, but Israel, America, all the developed countries with advanced cyber capabilities. So not only is it a perfect tool for states, but that are unsure whether use of kinetic force will achieve a political objective. It is also great for states who want to coerce another state without the intention of escalating the conflict to a conventional armed one. The use of offensive cyber capabilities by states remains a gray area in international law, as there is no agreement yet whether the meaning of force under Article 24 of the UN Charter is broad enough to encompass cyber attacks. So, international law has not yet defined under the under Article 24 of the UN Charter, has not really thought of the need to encompass cyber attacks. So another reason why cyber warfare is growing more attractive to state and non-state actors is the difficulty in confidently attributing an attack to an actor, including the ease with which false flags can be used by an adversary to carry out cyber attacks. Determining a location on the internet from which commands or actions came from depends on the IP address of the computer. Unfortunately, an attacker can obfuscate their IP address. So this is the scenario we're in. Africa's preparedness for cyber attacks. The above analysis begs the question whether African states are prepared and are able to defend against this new form of force and warfare in the virtual sphere. The ease at which government services, agencies, and their websites are attacked and defaced in Africa points to unpreparedness. Even what makes their plight even more serious is their ability to respond to attacks in a timely manner. It's been more than a decade now since the first politically motivated cyber attack with the intent of dismantling a nation's services and economy through the attack of government information systems and websites was carried out on Estonia by Russia. Yet, African government systems and websites continue to be very for the in 2013 as the world's according to statistics, Africa happens to be the world's most the poorest inhabited continent or in the world, but at the same time, the world's fastest growing sphere of economic activities. Africa depends on information and communications technology infrastructure to deliver the economic ambitions it has, present and for the future. Because of very low road density and up to 66% unbanked adults, according to World Bank statistics of 2014, the continent depends on ICT infrastructure to deliver health services, banking, communication, education resources, and government services. Most countries in Africa have turned to e-government services to bridge this gap. The positive impact this digitization has had is that the unbanked adults in 2017 dropped to 57%, all due to mobile money and finance technologies, what is called fintech. In Kenya, for example, where up to 80% of adults use digital payments and mobile money services like M-Pesa, it is not difficult to imagine a scenario where cyber attacks target the infrastructure supporting digital, finance, and banking with the intention to sabotage and shut it down. Even less difficult to imagine is the harm and disruption that such an attack will cause, including physical harm and death. Since critical services like healthcare are sometimes paid for with mobile money, and most times a patient must pay for their treatment before doctors can treat the patient. If a cyber attack was launched and successful by a nation state, it would be considered an act of war. But regardless of whether the attack is state sponsored or carried out by a terrorist organization, the impact to the economy and psychological impact to the society would be severe. This underscores why effective security and cyber resilience is critical for the continent's continued economic development and security. There have been numerous other incidents of cyber attacks targeting countries' critical infrastructure and services on the continent. For instance, in 2019, Kenya's Integrated Financial Management System, IFMS, the Judicial Service Commission, JSC, the Immigration Department, it did so within The Immigration Department. Kenya Meat Commission, Petroleum Ministry, and Refugee Affairs were among 18 government websites that were attacked on the same day by an Indonesian group called Card Electronic Team, who left their logo on the pages of the hacked website before the websites were taken down by government responders. This event occurred 2 years after the agency, Communication Authority of Kenya, meant to protect all Kenya government systems and services, had its websites hacked and defaced. This was not the first time non-state actors were targeting government services and officials in Kenya. In January 2012, an Indonesian hacker brought down 103 websites in one night. In July 2013, a Gaza hacking team breached the website of the Central Bank of Kenya, and in July 2014, the Latin America-based anonymous call anon_OX03 hacked and took over Twitter accounts operated by Kenya Defense Forces and the Deputy President's accounts. In the 2019 Kenya attacks, the state was quicker to respond and take the websites offline. It did so within 24 hours, although it is unclear how long it took for resumption of services. In South Africa, a more recent cyber attack in June 2020 aimed at Life Healthcare affected the hospital's admission systems, business processing systems, and email servers. It shows just how vulnerable Africa's most critical infrastructure is. This followed two prior attacks on other South African critical infrastructure in 2019. In October 2019, the city of Johannesburg fell victim to a ransomware attack which saw its website and billing systems shut down. Earlier, but that same year, the city's electricity distribution company, City Power, also suffered a ransomware attack which left city residents without electricity. This attack affected customers' ability to buy prepaid electricity and the company's ability to respond to localized blackouts. If a map of all cyber attacks in Africa were to be plotted, it would show the countries most advanced in the use of ICT infrastructure for critical services in the society are the most attacked. Countries at the top of the list are South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Uganda, Ghana, Mauritius, and Rwanda. It is therefore important that as countries roll out e-government strategies, digitize the banking and financial sectors to bring the unbanked population into the money economy and make cities smart, they must commit national resources and budget proportional to the criticality of the infrastructure, services, and access to the country's economy and livelihood. Regulations are required to ensure operators of such infrastructure keep them secure and take responsibility. Cameroon is a good example of this, where a repository containing good safety practices for the implementation and deployment of secure websites, including the monitoring of the CM websites with the aim of detecting websites engaged in illegal activity, have been developed. In addition, Cameroon has passed laws that require operators of ICT infrastructure to secure them and make the operators responsible for the infrastructure security, with heavy fines if such responsibilities are not met. One more needs to be done in Cameroon, especially with regards to implementation. This is a good place for African countries to start. Hybrid warfare. The military and defense industry in Africa recognizes the need to develop at a minimum defensive cyber capabilities. This should be the goal. I know some countries are doing it, but it is a must. But only very few countries are doing something about it. Historically, African militaries have been and continue to fight insurgent groups, rebel groups, transnational terrorism, and crime cartels. We have Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab in Somalia. It is expected that these conflicts will develop into hybrid wars where both cyber and conventional kinetic armed forces are used. In some instances, adversaries using cyber attacks to distract or prepare the battle space for a conventional attack. So, this has been my issues of the day. Don't forget to subscribe and give me a thumbs up. I'll be forthcoming with more. I'm going to continue with any issue concerning cyber, and which is an issue that requires discussion of the day, because the issues of the day are the same issues you'll find tomorrow. Thank you for listening, and don't forget